I talk a lot about walking with our hearts open. And I really encourage people to walk with their hearts open. And it's a big ask to walk with your heart open, for me to say, hey, you should walk with your heart open, because it is painful emotionally. It's happening in a world that will often break your heart. I mean, even just watching the news, and just, I work at a hospital, and just the things that happen will, my heart gets broken like on a daily basis. And so it's a big ask. And so a lot of what I try to do in these videos and in the work I do with people is provide skills. Like, how the question gets to be, how do we walk with our heart open in a world that breaks your heart? you know and so one variation on that today is going to be, I want to talk about what the experience of walking with your heart open can be like. And so when we stop intellectualizing, and we stop medicating and distracting ourselves from our feelings, and we allow that kind of our heart to be open, and we allow ourselves to feel things at a deep level. If you're watching this video, chances are you naturally feel things at a deep level. Okay, so you feel things, you're empathetic, you're compassionate, and that's challenging. So when we allow ourselves to just naturally feel, to return to our natural way of being, our natural state, we allow ourselves to feel and empathetically connect. Now, the upside is, we get to feel, we get to be empathetic and compassionate, we be connected with life, with all of life, and you get a lot. But then the challenge is, it can be painful. And one of the things that happens as we start allowing ourselves to feel more and feel life more is, things can come up in us, because there was probably times in our life when we weren't able to allow ourselves to feel. And so once we start allowing ourselves to feel, we usually have some things, it could be some trauma, it could be, even small traumas of just different disappointments and how we got our hearts broken. And what happens is, when we don't allow ourselves to feel those things, that energy kind of gets trapped in our body. Now we allow ourselves to feel again, so those things start getting, we start feeling them, we start experiencing them, because we didn't experience them when they happened. And this is very healing, and also it can be very troubling. And what I've found myself and in my clients is that this kind of can cycle. Maybe you've noticed, like, when you're walking openly, you're living open with your heart open, you kind of, you kind of cycle. It's like every couple of days we almost go through these cycles. And for me, it feels like, I feel stages of, like, I'm really hopeful and I'm psyched and I feel really good, and then I can feel really sad and I can get discouraged. And then it's like, because when you're walking with your heart open, it's a little like the salmon swimming upstream, right? And it's just like, why do I even bother? I get a little tired, I get discouraged, and but if I don't react to that, chances are I get a good night's sleep if I can, and then the next morning or a day later, there's this breakthrough, and I feel good again. I feel like there is hope, and it does matter that I do this, and so we go through these cycles of maybe hope and discouragement, of being discouraged, and we go through these cycles of being really kind of agitated and being at peace. And that is a natural way. It's a natural way. I think it's as we're kind of healing inside, and as we are growing spiritually and emotionally, we go through. I noticed it when I went in a meditation retreat. For a while there, I was doing these silent meditation retreats. They'd be 5 days or 7 days long. And I would notice, like, I'd start the first day, I might start, and it's just like really frustrating. It's like, I can't meditate, I suck at this. And, and it's like really challenging. And then maybe a day or two into it, I have this breakthrough, and it's just like, oh, wow, I feel like one with life. This is amazing. I'm so glad. And it's just like, I'm so glad I did this. And then lo and behold, like the third day, I'll be back in my stuff again. It's like, I'm hating it. This is really hard. And I would notice like every 2 or 3 days I would cycle. And that's where I started noticing this. And so what I would suggest is to be aware of the cycle and to allow yourself to feel. The invitation and the suggestion is to allow yourself to feel, but not get embroiled in it. Because what happens is when you're in the painful part of a cycle, or the frustrating phase, or the discouraging phase, or the really sad phase, like the uncomfortable, the grieving phase, or whatever it is, it's like, when we get in these challenging phases, our mind starts creating stories, and very believable stories, about which are even more upsetting. Like, why are you doing this? Or this is ridiculous, or you don't matter, and this, you really suck. Whatever it is, it's like these negative stories. And so the challenge is, when you're in this kind of challenging part of this emotional cycle, is to feel the sadness, feel the discouragement, and be aware of it and notice it. Wow, I'm having a rough time today. I really don't feel very good, and I'm really sad. I'm easy to tears, and to be aware of it and to feel whatever feeling's there. But what you don't have to do is you don't have to feel the reaction to the story about the feeling. We used to call it the pure feeling, and when I wrote my book, the pure feeling and the reactionary feeling. Feel the pure feeling. The reactionary feeling is the feeling of the sad story that you told yourself. And then we feel even more upset because the story is usually tragic and painful, and then we feel that. Well, you don't really have to feel that to heal. All you really need to feel emotionally and spirit is the pure feeling. So if you keep yourself focused on what's the pure feeling, and then it's like, oh, and I'm starting to create a little bit of a story about the pure feeling, and I don't need to go down that rabbit hole. I can just stay in the feeling. And so that's what I would suggest. And the other thing, the last thing I'll say is the other thing that happens with like what I call fear of feeling, is one of the biggest fears of feelings is it's never going to stop. And it's like, so when we get in one of these painful phases, our mind tells us, it's like, oh my God, this is never going to end. Now you're going to be in this, and which is usually not the case. Usually in the next couple of days, you're probably going to feel differently. You're probably going to feel better. So if you just remind yourself, it's like, no, my mind, it feels like it's not going to stop. I'm afraid it's not going to stop, but the reality is it probably is going to stop. And how do I know that? Not because Mike said it in his video, but just notice your own cycle. It's like, I felt like this last week, and then I came out of it. So do your own research and remind yourself that it feels like it's not going to stop, but it probably will. So if I just kind of allow myself to get through this, it's going to feel better. And then when it does open up, usually we feel even more liberated and more connected and more joyful. So that is my video for this week. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you really enjoy your week. And what I would, suggest is to just maybe pay a little attention to your emotional cycle that you might be going through. And then when you are in a challenging time, try to just feel but not react to the stories that your mind may be concocting. And I will see you in a week.